What's going on, guys? If you're worried about inflation, you need to watch today's video. It's going to look like this. You're going to go broke. Your company will slowly bleed out until there's nothing left. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's go. What's going on, guys? My name is Travis. I make videos that hopefully inspire you to make an investment or start a business. If you already have a business, maybe I can help you make it better. So the CPI just printed a 6.2 inflation rate. If you don't know what the CPI is, it's a gauge that's used basically to tell you how strong your dollar is when you spend it. And just for reference, 6.2% is close to a 30-year high. If you're a business owner, you're seeing inflation in the supplies you buy and the labor you use to generate a profit, which in turn is the whole business that you have, right? When I first started my garbage business, a 40-yard roll-off dumpster was about $4,500. The last time I checked, which was 2 or 3 months ago, they were over $8,000 for a 40-yard roll-off. Front load dumpsters, kind of the same thing. They're up over 30 to 40%. And on trash cans, I'm seeing significant increases in what we were paying even 6 months ago. At my propane company, we've had multiple price increases on the tanks we use and the supplies that we use. Part of the reason is basically every commodity is at or near a recent high. So the question comes up, should I raise prices to fight inflation? There's really 2 pieces of information I feel like you need to understand to answer this question. First is that we basically shut down the whole world during the COVID pandemic. And then after the COVID pandemic, there was a long stretch of time where people weren't sure whether they wanted to go to work, and some governments were holding people back from going to work. So there was just a really long time where production of anything was well below what it was previous to the pandemic. So there's a backlog of parts and supplies and basically everything that's needed to run the world that we don't have right now. We're seeing the effects of this in everything from Starbucks pumpkin spice latte to just basically every part I need when my garbage trucks break down. Drop a comment and let me know where you're seeing shortages and how it's affecting your business. So when there's shortages of things, companies try to ramp everything up quickly to try to catch up. They do this by competing for labor in a limited labor pool, paying more for supplies because there's limited supplies to go around, letting employees get more overtime, and kind of cutting back on some restrictions that they might have had pre-pandemic to just try to get things ramped back up, back to normal, and then they can try to control it a little bit better. They're also going to pay more for things like shipping, not only on the things that they're pushing out, but the supplies they have coming in, because again, there's limited labor to go around and the price of gasoline and diesel has gone up substantially. So all of these things drive up prices as long as there's a backlog. And until that backlog clears and we get back to normal, those prices aren't going to come back down. But will the prices come back down? One thing to consider with that is a lot of this is commodity driven. The reason things like roll-offs, front load dumpsters, and propane tanks are higher is because the price of metal is much higher. So once the backlog clears, a lot of these things that are causing the prices to be high are going to start to come back down. Commodities are especially affected by supply and demand. So once the demand starts to get back to normal, those prices should come down some. This would be particular to things like metal and fuel. At that point, we should see some easing in pricing on commodities and the inputs that go into some of these products we use. And also, companies will start to get more competitive because they have a little bit more room in their prices and they start to fight for customers instead of fighting for supplies. However, the flaw in this thinking and why it will only be a small price decrease when the backlog clears is because of labor. When these companies are competing for labor in a limited labor pool and they have to give raises to all their employees, once things clear, it's very hard to go back and take that money back from those employees. The other thing to consider when you're trying to figure out is this inflation temporary or permanent is the US government printed 40% of every dollar that we have since the COVID pandemic. I'm going to say that again. 40% of every US dollar in circulation was printed since COVID COVID pandemic. So as we all know, if there's more dollars, that makes the value of each dollar less. This makes your buying power on everything you buy less. This happens because when the government prints massive amounts of money, it has to go somewhere. So what it does is it trickles into asset classes. You'll see things like real estate go up. Here in Central Texas, we've seen the prices of land and houses almost double over the last year. You'll see things like stocks start to go crazy. You'll see things like commodities go up quite a bit, right? Anything that's an asset class, cryptocurrencies, anything. We've even got to the point where we have to create asset classes because we have so much money, it doesn't have enough places to go. We come up with things like NFTs, which basically is worthless, but people are trading them, saying they're stores of value because there's just too much money. So if you're going to buy a home or a piece of real estate or anything really, you're seeing this inflation because the dollar you have will not buy as much anymore. This, unlike the first consideration I talked to you about, is not temporary. They're not going to take those dollars back. So if you're thinking, maybe I'll just ride this out and I won't increase prices, and maybe 6 months or a year from now, things will kind of come back down to earth, they're not. When they print that much money, the market has to ultimately adjust to the new money supply. Your dollar is not worth as much. You have to pay more for your supplies permanently. We may see some incremental decreases once commodities come down, but because of your labor and because of the amount of money that they printed and put into the system, we are stuck with new higher prices. So if you do not adjust your prices to fit the new environment, you're going to go broke. Your company will slowly bleed out until there's nothing left. Guys, I appreciate you watching these videos. If you enjoyed them, please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to put another video up right here so you can keep on watching, and I'll see you soon in the next one.